want to touch on some coronavirus things and related topics. We are, as far as the news is reporting and our local school systems and health officials, we seem to be ramping back up into a series of closures and different restrictions, and depending on where you might live and your state lines, those might look different. If you hadn't heard already, Waynesboro Middle School is shut down for the next 2 weeks, and those kiddos will be learning from home, and so there's a lot of things that are just happening. And I was just talking to some neighbors this morning as I walked into the church today, and there are people that are very, very scared. And so I would just encourage us, just as a way of reminder, as we engage in that there's going to be all sorts of opinions. There's a political aspect to this. There's opinions about the health aspect of this. There are a range of opinions in this topic. How we present ourselves as believers, though, matters. And to acknowledge that whether we agree or disagree with the logic, that there are people scared, matters. And it matters how I choose my words and how I engage with those neighbors. It mattered how I had that conversation this morning. And I want to be careful that I'm not flippant towards them. I might not agree with them. I may agree with them. That doesn't really matter at this point. But how I represent myself as a Christ follower on their street, in their town, and somebody that has been on our radar as being a family we'd love to do more and more to reach out to, it matters. And so I just want to remind us of that. And then as well let you know that if you've wondered at all about where we stand on any closures, there are 2 churches in our community that have done so, not for extended period of time, but there's a church in our community that this morning is not meeting because they had somebody that tested positive, and they just decided, you know what, we're gonna make the call to stay home today. We'll do whatever we can to communicate if that happens, and this is a little bit of what that would look like. If it's a late week decision, we're gonna act similarly to what we do when it's bad weather outside. And usually that decision happens from myself. If it's weather related, it absolutely involves John Poper from a facilities perspective. And the main question is, can we get the parking lot and sidewalks clear and safe enough that we're not worried about breaking hips? If we can do that, then we can have church. Do we need an extra hour? Okay, we're going to not have Sunday school, but we're still going to have church. Or nope, we can't do it because it's just not feasible. All right, we're going to have a stay-at-home day. That's typically how that goes for weather. It's going to be similar as it relates to just COVID and whether we have to make any decisions kind of in the moment for that. And Justin and I will be the primary ones in gauging that. And we'll actually be asking similar questions, maybe not so much about hips, but we'll be asking, do we have the teaching staff to cover Sunday school for all of our kiddos and our adults? If not, maybe we just need to have church. Or is it the case where several families have put themselves into quarantine or have tested positive? We'll have to factor that in as well. And then when a decision's made, we'll do everything we can to communicate that information to you. The text is probably the fastest avenue, but you could anticipate an email, you could anticipate something on our Facebook page, we'll have something on our website as well. If a decision needs to go beyond one particular Sunday, then the elder team as a whole is going to engage in that, and they, as we did the last time around, will make that decision together and do so in consultation with all the best advice we can get our hands around. Now, I will tell you that none of us have a desire to stop meeting. None of us have a real appetite to go back to where we were. Regardless of what you think about what we did back in March, it is what happened. We'd love to not have that happen again, and we're not looking to do that whatsoever. I think us gathering and the church as a vital part of our lives is essential. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we're prioritizing that in relationships. But to that end, we just need to remind ourselves, if you're not feeling well or you think about not feeling well, it's just erring on the side of caution in these moments. We do have some people in our church that are going to be in the more susceptible category. We have some people that if they found out they were exposed, actually would have to stay home from work for a little while. And so those are just the different dynamics that exist. And we, again, just need to be mindful. These are 21st century expressions of loving our neighbor as ourselves, thinking about what it looks like to not just think about me, but think about you. And it kind of feels like the target's moving all the time. But if we can figure out how to prioritize each other, we might have a framework to then process the information of, all right, how does prioritizing you look like in this context? And so we just need to be mindful of those things. But I wanted to just touch on that because those things are creeping up again. This is now the second or third week in our community where other local churches have made the decision to shut down for staff reasons or other reasons. So I just wanted to touch on that, but then remind you what it would look like if we would be making that decision kind of in the moment, but then what it might also look like if we had to make that decision for a more extended period of time. So if you've got any questions along the way, please let me know, and please make sure you've got access to some of those means of communication that will get that information extended throughout. All right?